Hey, and welcome to Dr. G Speaks. I am Dr. Kristen Guillory, and I am so very excited to help you experience a life of freedom, faith, and fun you may not even realize is possible. Listen, I know you feel held back, I know you feel stuck, and I know you are hiding. As a coach and the author of Look, Stop Hiding, How to Find Your Voice and Never Dim Your Light Again, you will get to listen to some amazing stories, receive some homework, that's the professor in me, and get some tools to help you live the life you deserve. It's time to quiet the noise and walk in the fullness of who God created you to be. It's time to stop hiding and start thriving. Together, we'll uncover your potential and ignite your journey to a fulfilling life, a life of freedom. Have you ever said to yourself, or someone said to you, or you heard someone say, that's going to be hard? Life is hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. Have you ever heard that? Have you ever said that? So, what if we stopped normalizing hard as the default experience of life? Parenting is hard. Marriage is hard. Entrepreneurship is hard. Being a Black woman is hard every day. Life is hard. What if we stopped normalizing that? Not saying there aren't hard moments and experiences in those circumstances, but what if we stopped normalizing that? Difficulty does not have to cancel out delight. We can acknowledge the hard without making hard the prophecy. So I just attended an event, and it was an event for entrepreneurs, people who want to start businesses, make more money, and more. Great event, a lot of great information, made some connections. And one of the things that I heard throughout the event in different ways, which is not abnormal to other events, I've heard this as well in other events, but I continue to hear entrepreneurship is hard. And I was sitting in one of the sessions, and one of the speakers invited entrepreneurs to stand. Hey, if you're an entrepreneur, stand up. If it's hard, stand up. And I want you to stomp your feet if it's hard every day. And the room is stomping their feet. And my friend who was with me looked over at me, and she saw me sitting down, not stomping my feet. And she said, "It's not hard for you?" I said, "No, I'm not pretending that I don't work, that I don't spend hours working." But I remember hearing that many years ago, somebody saying entrepreneurship is hard, blah, blah, blah. And I thought immediately, I don't want that to be my norm. I don't want to normalize hard, because if I say that it's hard every day, then it will be hard every day. I also heard in the same conference, as well as other spaces, not only is entrepreneurship hard, it's lonely. Nobody understands. It's hard every day. You have to grind, you have to sacrifice. And I just remember thinking, but does it have to be? Not will there be hard days? Sure, sure. But does entrepreneurship have to be hard every day for me to be doing it correctly? That's a different question, y'all. We've normalized hardness, and almost like, if I'm not saying, oh, it was hard, I only slept 2 hours a day, I didn't eat for 12 days, I didn't see my loved ones for 13 years. Ooh, that's the hard that was required for me to build this business. I reject all of that. It does not mean there won't be sacrifices. So, for example, a sacrifice might be, I'm not going to eat out as much. I'm going to cook in to save money. I am not going to go out every Saturday with my friends because I need to spend that time on Saturday working on my business. I don't mean that type of sacrifice. Also, yes, entrepreneurship can have some loneliness in there. And the other sides of entrepreneurship, I don't often hear being discussed. Entrepreneurship can be fun. You can connect and meet amazing people. Entrepreneurship can help you live the life that you desire and deserve. And I just wonder how often, when we say things are hard, that we understand that repeated thoughts and expectations influence attention, interpretation, emotion, and behavior. Expectations can become self reinforcing, and the brain is absolutely capable of learning what we repeatedly rehearse. So, if I am repeatedly rehearsing that entrepreneurship is hard, that's going to influence every part of what I do. And sometimes we don't even know we're doing that because we expect it to be hard. 12 years ago, when I was offered a professor position opportunity, I'd already been teaching at a university for a couple of years. And watch this, y'all. Because the opportunity came too easily, I almost said no to the job. They made me the offer. I remember emailing my family saying, because it just fell in my lap, because it came too easily, I'm going to say no. I'm very grateful that I came to my senses the next morning and accepted the job, but that was so ingrained in me. And I didn't even know. I didn't even know that the idea that, ooh, being a believer and being a woman is not supposed to be easy, that was ingrained in me. And I did not even realize it. External narratives that became part of me, and I didn't even know. I'm so grateful that I received and accepted the blessing and received the ease. I remember going to lunch with a colleague's friend probably a year later, and she asked me the question, have you ever prayed for ease? And I just looked at her and thought, what? No, I'd never considered the concept of ease because everything is supposed to be hard. Everything is supposed to be hard. Research on expectations and self fulfilling prophecies suggest that what we expect can influence how we perceive situations, behave with them, and ultimately experience outcomes. One relevant concept is mindset and appraisal. So, two people can encounter the same challenge and interpret it differently. Person A, this is so hard. Everything will always be hard. I knew entrepreneurship would be hard. Person B, this is challenging. What do I need to learn? Person B, there are some unexpected hurdles, and I'm grateful to be doing what I have always wanted to do. Same problem, different meaning, different emotional experience, different behavioral response. Research on stress appraisal has also found that the way people interpret stress can affect their physiological and psychological responses to it. Seeing a demanding situation as a challenge rather than purely a threat can be associated with more adaptive responses. So, y'all, this is not about pretending. It's about the story you attach to what is happening. The problem isn't acknowledging that something is hard. The problem isn't acknowledging that something is hard. The problem is when hard becomes the only lens through which you know how to see it. So it's not saying if you think positively, nothing will be hard. That's not what it is. It's your expectations don't control reality, but they influence how you enter reality. Something that I learned years ago, it was a phrase I read as part of an email, and it has stuck with me ever since. And the person in the email was writing about, I have to wash my clothes today. And she said, no, I get to do this. And I get to has become a core value system for me. I get to. I have to carries obligation. I get to introduces agency. I have to build this business versus I get to build this business. I have to parent this child versus I get to raise this human being. I have to work on this relationship versus I get to decide whether this relationship is worth cultivating. I have to figure out my life versus I get to discover what God has for me. And there's something psychologically powerful about shifting from burden language to agency language. I have to can make you feel trapped. I get to reminds you that there is something you value underneath the responsibility. I have to go to work. I get to go to work. Saying I get to doesn't mean you love the work. It means I get to go to work. I have to get gas. I get to get gas because if I'm getting gas, it means I have a car. It means I know how to drive. It means I have money to get gas. I have to work on my business. I get to work on my business. Just think about what that would mean for your life when you sit in the I get to energy. I recently watched a clip of Oprah being interviewed by Kiki Palmer, and Oprah was sharing that she never grew up with the idea that being a Black person and being a Black woman would be reason for her not to be successful. She essentially was saying, I never even had that concept in me. So when I walked in spaces, of course I was going to get this. Of course I was going to ask for the raise that my counterpart, who was a white man, was getting. The powerful part isn't that she didn't encounter barriers. Obviously, Oprah has encountered barriers. The point is that she didn't walk into every room carrying the internal assumption I'm a Black woman, therefore I don't belong here. Therefore, I'm going to get less. Therefore, I'm not going to be chosen. She reportedly described not having the conceptual framework that being Black and being a woman would automatically be a hurdle. And that shaped how she entered spaces. Y'all, that is powerful. That is powerful. If you know any part of Oprah's story, she has been through extremely hard things. She is a survivor of abuse. Her father wasn't around when she was younger. Very hard things. And even in the midst of that, she never adopted the belief that because I was raised this way or raised in this environment, because of all these things, I am supposed to require less. That's fascinating because sometimes we don't realize the invisible rules we've been handed until somebody tells us we're supposed to be living by them. I remember teaching at that college the position that I was going to say no to because the position came too easily. Yeah, that campus. I remember just being myself on that campus, and I was stopped a few times by students who would ask me if I was single, and they would be happy to learn that I was single because they said, oh my goodness, you're happy. And you wear high heels, and you wearing high heels is not to attract a man. There was a lot of assumption on campus that the assumption was that because I was single, I wanted to meet someone, or because I was single, I wasn't happy. And I was just being me. I had no idea that there was this concept of belief that you are less than because you're single. That was never a belief of mine. I knew people who really wanted to meet someone and would experience depression because they were single, but no part of that was anything in my DNA. And I've reflected on that and thought, that might have been different if I grew up in a household being taught that. If I grew up, hey, do you have a boyfriend yet? Okay, you need to hurry up and get married. That was never part of the journey. So the idea that being single wasn't anything other than glorious and amazing was never any idea that I had. Same situation, single is such a blessing. And are there women who are not enjoying being single? And I understand that. And there's no judgment. And it's, I wonder what contributed to that thought. Yeah, I was living my life, not realizing that I was a whole alien because I was happy and single. And that was so weird for them to see. I didn't have the internal rule that single women are supposed to be lonely, that single women are supposed to be unhappy. So I wasn't performing loneliness. I wasn't apologizing for my life. I wasn't waiting for somebody to arrive to make my life complete. I'd already decided single is a blessing. And that's exactly the kind of belief system I'm inviting you all to examine, not necessarily about being single, but you get to decide the belief system. I'm not talking about being naive. It's none of that. But it's you get to decide. Y'all, what if we normalized the other side? We've normalized entrepreneurship is hard, okay? What if we normalized as well, right? There are hard moments. I am not saying that there aren't hard moments. There aren't moments of opportunity for growth. There aren't moments where you will be disappointed and learn, right? So we've normalized that. What if we also normalize entrepreneurship is fun? It can be creative, it can be freeing, it can be profitable. Entrepreneurship can introduce you to incredible people. It can allow you to use gifts you couldn't fully express in another environment. It can give you autonomy. It can allow you to create something that did not exist before. Relationships. Okay, people say relationships are hard. Not going to tell you that they aren't at times, but it's not relationships as a whole is hard. What is it that is hard about relationship, right? Because if we're going to be honest with it, the hard could be that you're not getting what you want. The hard could be my own pride and ego. I mean, it's so many other things. So, yes, relationships require communication. Yes, people disappoint us. Yes, conflict can happen. But what if we normalized relationships can be safe? They can be playful, they can be supportive, they can be nourishing. They can be a place where you laugh until your stomach hurts. I love that. Parenting. Y'all, yes, parenting can stretch you and grow you. And there are hard moments, absolutely. But what a gift that you get to watch a human become themselves and you're contributing to that growth. Yes, growth can be uncomfortable, but what a gift to discover something about yourself you didn't know before. Business, what a gift to build something from your imagination or build something that's been in your spirit since you were a child. Your life, what a gift to get to decide. Now, are there some things that happen in life that we don't get to decide and it's devastating? Yes. So, this is again not saying that life and other things aren't hard at times, but is life always hard? Is entrepreneurship always hard? Is being a parent always hard? Are relationships always hard? Hard is not the only evidence that it matters. It's something about our society that if it isn't hard, it's not worth doing, right? Some people unconsciously believe if it's valuable, it must be hard. If I'm not exhausted, I'm not working hard enough. If this isn't painful, I'm not growing. Y'all, that's a dangerous equation because then suffering becomes proof of significance. Can things not be significant if they come easily? If you're just open and available? Y'all, you can begin manufacturing difficulty because you've learned to associate difficulty with legitimacy. Questions. Who taught you that struggle is proof that something matters? When did you learn that? When did you learn that? Actually was hanging out with an amazing group of women yesterday, and a woman in the group shared a beautiful revelation. She said, I work at this company and I'm the leader, but I keep choosing the hardest projects and I keep choosing the extra work because hard has always been my norm. And it's time for me to stop choosing that, but it's part of my DNA. I need to detox from it. And we're not dismissing that, specifically for Black women, that some of us and some of our ancestors had to do what was hard. They might not have even called it hard. They might have called it, it's what I had to do. And because we watched our amazing mothers and aunts and grandmothers do what they did, we adopted that and thought, I have to do that too. The question is, but do we? Next question. Where did you learn that exhaustion equals productivity? I heard someone once say that exhaustion is a ploy of the enemy because when we are exhausted, we are not seeing clearly. And in order to move in the direction that the Lord would have us go, we need to see clearly. Next question. Where did you learn that difficulty means I'm on the right path? Next question. Do you actually have evidence that it must be hard, or have you simply heard that? And maybe you do have evidence that I went through the hardest year of my life and that birthed this movement and this book and this. And so, yes, okay, that could have been an experience, but does it have to be hard every time? Matthew 11:28 through 30, Jesus speaks about coming to him when we are weary and burdened and describes his yoke as easy and his burden as light. That doesn't mean following the Lord means nothing is difficult. It means difficulty isn't synonymous with divine assignment. Sometimes we're carrying things God never asked for us to carry. And sometimes we're carrying God given responsibilities with a God given grace that we have interpreted as punishment. Sometimes on these journeys, we are carrying the hard that wasn't meant for us to carry. God is saying, give it to me. Let me do it. Okay, you're having a difficult moment in your business. Let me have it. Let me show you what to do. I'm thinking about a friendship that I was in some years ago. And while the Lord did lead me to do certain things in this particular journey, I had to be radically honest with myself and say, but God didn't tell me to do all that I did. Because what made that journey hard was me. What made that journey hard, like the really hard, frustrating moments, was me and my pride and my expectations and me moving in the will of Kristen and not in God's will. Nehemiah 8:10 says, the joy of the Lord is your strength, not the exhaustion of the Lord is your strength, not the struggle of the Lord is your strength, joy. Psalm 118:24. This is the day the Lord has made. We will rejoice and be glad in it. That's being intentional. Gladness is allowed. So, y'all, I want you to pause and complete the following sentences. Instead of, I have to build this business, ask yourself, what do I get to create? Instead of, I have to make money, what do I get to learn about creating value? I have to figure out my next step. What do I get to discover when I pause and listen to the Lord? I have to deal with this relationship. What do I get to learn about myself, the other person, boundaries, love, and discernment? I have to be single. What do I get to experience because my life isn't organized around partnership? What if this isn't happening to me? What if I get to decide what I make of what is happening? More questions for you because I really want you to sit in this. Have you normalized hard? Have you made the default everything is going to be hard? Everything is going to be difficult every day? Question for you to ask yourself. What have I accepted as supposed to be hard simply because I've heard it repeatedly? What expectations am I carrying into my business, relationships, parenting, or life? What would change if I stopped expecting the worst? Where do I need to start saying I get to instead of I have to? What if I didn't need struggle to prove that I'm committed? What if ease isn't evidence that I'm doing something wrong? And where might God be inviting me to put down a burden I was never assigned to carry? Y'all, I get to, not I have to. I get to build, I get to create, I get to learn, I get to love, I get to grow, I get to decide, I get to try again. I get to experience something I've never experienced before. And yes, there might be hard moments, there might be hard days, there might be hard weeks, there might even be hard months. There might be disappointments. There might be moments when you cry, you regroup, you pray, you adjust and keep moving, but hard doesn't have to become your identity. You don't have to walk into every new opportunity bracing for impact. You can walk in expecting God to meet you right there. Come on. You can expect joy in the midst of challenge, work and reward, growth and pleasure. Come on, and ministry, responsibility and freedom. Because maybe the next level isn't simply learning how to survive what's hard. Maybe it's learning how to receive what is good. Your affirmation for today: I am releasing the belief that everything meaningful has to be hard. I welcome challenge without making struggle my identity, and I give myself permission to experience joy, ease, freedom, love, kindness, and abundance. Thank you so much for listening to the Dr. G Speaks podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and family. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Deuces.